Side, it says recording.
All right, good enough. Welcome to episode number 126 of the Beyond Social Media Show, the podcast for advertising, marketing, public relations, and professional communicators. We're recording live for the first time on Blab on January 17, 2016. We always start off with the worst stories of the week in terms of professional or marketing communications, and BL always has the honors to kick us off with the worst story of the week. BL, what do you got?
Well, I think the worst thing I saw this week was Crocs and their tribute to David Bowie. And what they did was they posted a picture of a white pair of Crocs, and it had the graphic lightning bolt that was from Ziggy Stardust. So my favorite tweets were, I never forgot when David Bowie sang, "Put on your rubber perforated slip-on shoes and dance the blues."
yeah. You think
and
they
nothing
thought...
says Bowie like hard-wearing practical shoes you can wash down with a hose. So they took it down in half an hour, but as we all know, what goes online stays online, and therefore it's still there.
Yeah, he's kind of lazy too. I mean, you could have been a little bit more creative if you're gonna sort of jump on that opportunity. And you're exactly right. Nothing says David Bowie like Crocs, right?
Well, if your brand has nothing to do with David Bowie, then shut up. I mean, that's really the bottom line. So, so the other thing was this week we saw what is perhaps the fastest birth and death of a new social network, and that was Peach. Big brouhaha. It was created by Don Hoffman, a co-founder of Vine, and it's just the hottest thing since sliced bread. Except a lot of people think it's over. It's only available on iOS, and it has GIFs and pictures and status updates and magic words, and it's made for kids, and you can throw cake at people. But unfortunately, what happened immediately was that brands jumped on it, and that's what ruins social networks. So, either dead or alive remains to be seen.
Peach,
we'll find out.
No.
Yes. So, also, I can't help but talk about Donald Trump. The neo-Nazi American Party blanketed Iowa with vote for Trump robocalls. And the source of this is the Washington Post. The reporter is Peter Hawley. And the nationalist leader, Jared Taylor, is the voice of it. And he's saying, I urge you to vote for Donald Trump because he's the one candidate who points out that we should accept immigrants who are good Americans. And it was paid for by the American National Super PAC. And in it, he says, we don't need Muslims. We need smart, well-educated white people who will assimilate into our culture. Vote Trump. And it also featured Reverend Don Tan, who's a Filipino-American minister. And he refers to Trump as white nationalists' great hope. So he refused to comment on this article in the Post, but he also refused to comment when the KKK Grand Wizard David Duke endorsed him, because he said to Bloomberg News, I don't need this endorsement. I don't want his endorsement. I don't need anybody's endorsement. So Bloomberg said, well, would you repudiate it? And he said, yeah, if it makes you feel better.
Well, BL, you have this in the worst. I think it might go in the best in terms of it's sort of a public service that we know this, right?
Well, I guess so. But, okay, on a much lighter note, I get this email this week from Weenis the Elf. It's January. Christmas is over. And, I mean, it's hardly the worst thing that happened online, but it's the biggest waste of money in email marketing. The subject line is, Weenis the Elf wants to know, how are you going to spend the next 346 days? And at the bottom of the email, it says, why did I get this? And it says, you were subscribed to this list because we wanted to make sure that you knew what Weenis and the other elves have been up to in the North Pole.
Thanks for that.
Well, back in the early days, do you remember elf bowling?
I
Do you remember
don't.
that? That was
No.
like one of the first online games, and there were
Okay.
these rude little elves who I think these are the latest incarnation of them. So they're rude little elves, and they would be like try and bowl, and then you would get a gutter ball, and they go, "That all you got? That all you got?" Well, that's what Weenis the Elf is like, except they're kind of like the porn version.
Oh, no. Yay. Late and kind of disgusting. So yeah, 2 thumbs down for that.
Yeah, so I'm not on that list anymore.
Yeah, good for you. Is that the last of your worst?
That's the last of my bad news.
All right, so I've got a bad news, and my bad news for the week was for those who are watching and blab for the first time, you may not know, but I'll tell you, I'm a huge Vikings fan, and my Minnesota Vikings were in the playoffs last week, and they lost in the last second. And so there are some sports fans like me go online all the time and talk about sports, and plenty of memes going around. And here's a meme regarding my Minnesota Vikings. So EA Sports, the publisher of the popular Madden video game, took advantage of the Vikings' loss to poke some fun at our misery. This is from a Fox News story by Teddy Mitrolis, I believe is how you pronounce his name. So the Vikings lost the playoff game against the Seattle Seahawks in the final seconds as a wild card playoff game. In the final seconds, all they needed was a chip shot field goal from their kicker Blair Walsh, and they would have gone on to the next level of the playoffs. And all the points in the game that Vikings scored were scored by this kicker. So he lines up in the final seconds, kicks it, and misses wide left. He misses the field goal wide left, and we lose the game. So last Thursday, EA Sports published on their Instagram account a Throwback Thursday post, which was an image of Blair Walsh, the kicker, from the video game. So it's his character in the video game lined up at the moment where he's about to kick the game-winning field goal in the game against the Seattle Seahawks. But the image controls in the image that show which direction the kick is going to be pointed are skewed far left. So they're mocking this kicker because he missed the kick through their video games. Kind of mean, but also kind of funny. So we'll share that image on the blog post for this.
That's
for this
more than a
podcast,
little mean.
Yeah, it was kind of mean. But Walsh, stand-up guy, he owned his mistake. He, after the game, stood at his locker and answered all the reporters' questions, every one of them. He blamed the loss entirely on himself, though it's a team game. He sobbed. He was sobbing at his stall afterwards, after he finished answering all the questions. And of course, he was the subject of all kinds of malicious and mean stuff online. There's a lot of hate and vitriol for his missed kick and threats against himself and his family, of course. But there are also messages of support. So there's a class of first graders who wrote him letters of support and encouragement. He went to visit the class and thanked them for their support. A Vikings receiver, Nate Burleson, former receiver for the Vikings, posted a message to Instagram, which I think, in part, I'll read it to you, is something that we should all take heart in for online communications in these kinds of situations. To all the so-called fans who have taken to social media to put him down, put the kicker down.
This is a first grader?
No, this is from a former Vikings receiver who is
okay.
Posting to his Instagram report. Yep. To curse him out and threaten his family. Please take a long look in the mirror. If y'all had your mistakes on grand display for the world to see, would you want thousands of people tearing you down with harsh words and threats? No. We have to have a little bit more sensitivity to one another in moments in which we fail. If we can't lean on each other to encourage us through the dark times, then we are lost as a society. Way to go.
That was how
Nate
it worked.
Burleson. Exactly. Yep.
So on to better news. Maybe better news. 2 major updates to Twitter. Periscope live streaming on Twitter, which could be a game changer. Not exactly sure. Whether there was a great big post on Twitter from Jack, and we'll see. Live and replays go right into tweets. The other thing that Twitter updated was advertising. I consider this a good change. Twitter's going to embed user tweets that are related to whatever brands are advertising, but they'll ask your permission first. And they call it a brand enthusiast gallery. And advertisers will be able to see who's talking about their brand related to the ad, and then they'll ask permission to use it and to repost it. So maybe that's a good thing. We don't know.
Well, it kind of sounds like, I mean, it's Twitter testimonials basically, right? So they're collecting all the positive brand mentions, I assume,
Yeah, that's
and
what it
offering
sounds
those
like
to
will happen.
advertisers. Yeah,
But they
I
will
kind of
ask
wonder.
you for your permission.
Yeah, I kind of wonder whether once this rolls out, when people start getting Twitter asking them for permission to use the brand tweets, people are going to say, "Well, how much are you going to pay me for that?"
Well, that's what I would say. What's it worth to you? You know, like I
Yep.
don't, but people are going to look at it as exposure. That's how people
Yep.
look at this stuff.
Yep.
So I don't know.
So I got
You got
another.
a good one?
Well, yeah, I got a cute one. This is another meme, and another Vikings-related meme, and it played out on Twitter and Facebook. And so this is the source is Twitter, of course. The Vikings' former head coach Bud Grant is 88 years old. He was the head coach of the Vikings during their heyday in the 1970s when they were known as the Purple People Eaters. He's a legendary figure in Minnesota sports. He led the Vikings to 4 Super Bowls during the 1970s. He played during an era, he coached during an era when all of our opponents in our division was known as a black and blue division. All of our opponents, the Green Bay Packers, the Detroit Lions, the Chicago Bears, the Minnesota Vikings, we all played outdoors, so we all played winter games out in the elements as football is supposed to be played. And so during the playoff, before the playoff game, he was brought out to be the honorary guy to do the coin flip to determine who would kick off first. The temperature at kickoff was -6 degrees. And so this 88-year-old man, Bud Grant, went out on the midfield in shirt sleeves and a T-shirt to show just how tough Vikings were. And he turned into a meme. So there are pictures of him, this guy out in -6 degrees with his bare arms showing, with one of them said, "You may be cool, but you'll never be Bud Grant going out for the coin toss in a T-shirt on a -6 degree day cool." There was a Photoshop of him atop of Mount Everest with with his shirt sleeves on. So very cute, very cool. And there you go. I'm done with my Minnesota Vikings for this show.
I was going to ask you how many more Minnesota Viking ones you had for us.
That's it. We'll have a break until next season.
Player, for those of you who don't know.
Yeah.
So an interesting development in Philadelphia. And the question is, can you combine philanthropy and business and then protect the integrity of the failing newspapers in Philadelphia? So what happened was that H.F. Jerry Lenefest, he's a Philadelphia-based billionaire, and he controls the 2 largest papers, the Philadelphia Inquirer and the Philadelphia Daily News. He bought them a while back, and he says that he's turning them into a new kind of corporation, and he's donating his assets to a tax-exempt corporation that now will allow the company to be a public benefit corporation. So basically that means that what they do should be beneficial to the public. And they're allowed to create philanthropic donations, and they're allowed to do things in a bit of a different way. They will have a taxable subsidiary called the Institute for Journalism and New Media. It's a completely new form of ownership for newspapers, and it will be an independent public service journalism and investigative reporting group that has to positively impact the community and also create innovative multimedia companies. So Kickstarter is a public benefit corporation, and basically they have to think about the best interests of their audience when they do anything. It's a very interesting idea.
It is a fascinating idea, and in theory, I love the idea. In practice, I don't know how. I mean, it's so
Nobody
new that you
does.
don't really know how it's going to turn out. But I think one of the things about Google that makes Google such an interesting company is they from the outset they had the motto of "Do no evil." Now, you can argue whether Google does evil or not, but the fact that that is their slogan keeps them honest to a certain degree, right? So if you start
To a
out
bigger
with an
degree than other
organization,
companies.
yep, yep. So if you start out with an organization and the model in which you form it is to be a public service organization, regardless if it was with that's a charity or a business, then you are holding yourself accountable from the beginning. So it'll be interesting to see. It's fascinating.
Because those are two
We
really excellent newspapers. So we'll see what happens. Now, speaking of newspapers, this could have gone into the worst category, except that the reaction of New Yorkers on Twitter and of everybody else is basically decimating Ted Cruz for his insensitive and stupid comment about New York values, which was a thinly veiled anti-Semitic remark. So the next day after he said, "We all know what New York values are," the Daily News, that wonderful tabloid, had a headline that said "Drop Dead, Ted," and it had the Statue of Liberty giving him the finger, and it said, "Hey, Cruz, you don't like New York values? Go back to Canada." So then that followed a stream on Twitter of New York values talking about what our values really are and demonstrating all the different ways that we help people and do good things and hate Ted Cruz. And so he apologized in his snide and disgusting way. And he made a bigger hole, and he became a late night punchline, which is my favorite thing about it.
Well, it's a hilarious cover, and a lot of political commentators are making the point that instance in the debate where he questioned Trump's New York values is when he lost,
That's when he lost.
because of Trump's response in part, but also because you're questioning Trump. Yeah. So very fascinating and fun to see that on
It was
on the
fun.
cover
I
of
had a grand old
Daily
time.
News. So I've got a really fun story that I wrote about on our blog, on our agency's blog, about a taco joint in Las Vegas.
I love
So
this
this is
story.
from Cities 97. I found it on their website from my friend Monica Melsha pointed it out to me. And this Las Vegas taco joint, Freeholes and Fresca's grilled tacos, was the victim of a burglary in December. They got security footage and caught the burglars in action. The manager, Greg Carlson, saw an opportunity with the footage and basically he edited the video to turn it into a story titled "Burglars Just Want Tacos." And the video tells the story of guys who really, really want tacos, but the taco joint is closed. So one of the guys at the beginning of the video sort of half-heartedly throws a rock at the front door, can't get open, so they go around to the back door and throw a rock through the back door, smash open the window. They get into the joint and start ransacking the place. They make off with the cash registers, and the video
Which had
mocks
no
the
tacos
burglars
in it.
every step of the way, ending with "Someone teach this guy how to throw a rock. That was weak, dude."
And they also
Yeah,
they make
and
fun
no
of him
tacos. They
each
did not
step
get
of
any
the
tacos.
way. It was great. And
then
then
they
they
close
said,
with a
"Okay,
call to
now you
action
saw
to
the
find the
video."
perpetrators. They let you say when the crime occurred. They
They say, "Help me find these guys."
yeah yeah. So the
They
video
give you the
was
police number and everything.
yeah.
It's had a
So
lot of views, right?
they've had 2.4 million views for the video since they uploaded it on December 17.
Wow.
28,000 likes, 1,300 comments. Estimated ad value for the video views, $6,126. 22,000 Facebook shares, 2,000 Facebook likes, 7,000 Facebook videos or Facebook comments, 2,280 instances of earned media. So everybody's writing about it. So they got a bunch of free publicity out of it. They've got high YouTube rankings for a bunch of search terms on YouTube. Burglars want tacos, robbers want tacos, freeholes, troll burglars. They rank 6th for tacos, just the phrase tacos. They rank 9th for the phrase burglar. So they're getting a ton of mileage out of a very creative editing job, basically.
And one of the things that's interesting about it is quite long. You know, it's not a 30-second spot. It's a few minutes. But it's compelling enough that you watch the whole thing. That's great.
It's compelling
enough
much
to watch. The guys. Did they go out and get his mother or something
you will
like
find
that?
out.
So I'm out of that. That was my good news.
Yeah, then a car pulled up towards the end and to pick up the robbers, and they said, "Well, here comes his mother."
That was really, it was outrageous.
All right.
So tell us what you thought about David Bowie.
Yeah, so very sad news. A little shocked. Very few people knew that he was sick. So when he died, it came, I think, as a big shock to most everybody. But there was a great story in The Guardian by Keith Stewart that basically runs through David Bowie's history of innovation. And so it covers, it's a great review of his technological innovation and about his foresight about the internet too. So in 1994, he started using technology, using CD-ROM technology to release Jump. And it was a PC CD that let users create their own video track for the song Jump. The song Jump, they say, and as well as watch interviews of Bowie and music videos from the Black Tie White Noise album. In 96, he had his own website back in the time when people were still debating whether or not they needed a website. He was the first major artist to distribute a new song online only, selling 3,000 downloads. In 97, he arranged an ambitious
That was incredible foresight. To do that, you know.
In
but
97,
as Joel pointed out, we lost 2 famous Brits to cancer this week. You know, that wasn't. Are you having sound issues?
You are in delay.
Oh.
I'm not hearing you clearly. So yeah, we're doing a lot of overlapping here.
Great.
Yeah. So okay, 98.
What I just said was that we lost 2 famous Brits this week to cancer. Very sadly.
Yes, we did. Yeah.
Okay, I'm hearing you
so
fine,
let me finish
so
this
I
up
won't
with
talk.
Bowie. Yeah. In 1998, Bowie launched a subscription ISP service, and it was really kind of innovative. It was called BowieNet. It offered uncensored access to the internet. This was back at a time when media organizations were trying to create their own AOL walled gardens too. So he offered that. It was connected to his website. He conceived it as a visual interactive community for his families. Subscribers could get their own BowieNet email address. They could browse Bowie photographs and videos and interviews, featured career chronology, a news feed, a blog. Before there were a lot of blogs, subscribers could get exclusive tracks and webcasts. You were offered 5 megabytes of hosting space and encouraged to create your own websites and share your own websites on the service. There were forums and live chats with Bowie himself. It was basically a music-centered social network before Facebook. In December of 1994, an interview, Bowie said, quote, "The actual context and the state of content is going to be so different to anything we can envision at the moment. The interplay between the user and the provider will be so in simpatico that it's going to crush our ideas about what mediums are all about." So he knew where the internet was going. Basically, he had a great clear vision of how the internet was going to unfold. So very fascinating outline. We'll put a link in the show notes for this article. And even his last album, his swan song, the music video for Lazarus it's a haunting music video, and it features him that appears like he's on his deathbed. And the first line of the song is look up here, I'm in heaven. It sounds like his goodbye. He created the album when he was suffering from cancer. So his last album, Black Star, was released 2 days before his death. So the guy, I mean, even as he's going out, he's leaving us with this amazing work of art, work of music, and he debuted #1 with the album. So
He sure did. There was a record store
pretty
in
amazing.
England called Rough Trade, and they suggested that everybody buy the album from them because they are donating all of the proceeds to UK cancer research for the whole month of January. And given that the album has already sold so many copies, that's pretty extraordinary. But the other Brit we lost was Alan Rickman, and he is one of the last things he did. He's the voiceover for This Tortoise Could Save a Life, which has had a couple of million views. And by watching the video, you're donating to Save the Children and the Refugee Council, because they are, by having as many views of the video as they have, they are getting advertising money from YouTube, and they're donating all of that money to the charities.
Very cool. Very cool. Are we on to shiny new stuff?
Yes.
All right. So have you got any this week?
None.
Okay. All right. I got 2 of them. A lot of people know about this, but I think a lot of people don't as well. BuzzSumo is a tool that I use regularly. I think it's a content marketing tool, basically. So with BuzzSumo, buzzsumo.com, I've got a write-up on it on our agency blog post as well, but you can identify, there's like 5 things that I use it for. Identifying trending content on social channels. So there's a section for trending content. And what it does is it measures the number of shares for a given piece of content on social media for Facebook, for Twitter, for LinkedIn, for Pinterest, and for Google+. And so you get the total shares as well as the shares for each of those channels. So you can identify what content is trending where, or what content does well where. So is it for identifying trending content? You can see what's trending within the past 2 hours or the past 12 hours. I use it for identifying popular content by domain. So you put in a domain name, and you can see what content is popular from that domain. You can find out what content is popular by keyword by doing a keyword search. You can analyze the socially shared content. You can identify top Twitter influencers by keyword or domain. It starts at $99 a month. So it is for fee. It's not free, but there is a free trial version. So if you're interested, go ahead and sign up for the trial version. It's a must-use tool, I think. And then the other one I have is called Likealyzer. This is from Meltwater. Meltwater is a social listening news service, and this is free, and they promise it will be always free. It measures Facebook pages, so it measures likes, it measures people talking about this stats, measures check-ins and engagement rate, and then they have their own live rank, and they describe their live rank. It's a number between 1 and 100 that represents how likable your brand is. We use more than 40 signals from Facebook in order to measure the Facebook page performance. The better performance, the higher the like rank. And so you can put in your own URL for your Facebook page and measure your own performance. And it'll give you recommendations for improving performance. Our Beyond Social Media Show Facebook page is ranks the same as CSI New York TV show. So there you go.
All right.
You can also get top list by Facebook category and by country. So a nice tool for sort of measuring how a Facebook page is doing.
I love BuzzSumo. I use it every day.
Yep.
Okay,
absolutely.
I'm not loving Blab today. The sound issues really suck.
They are pretty bad.
Yeah, it's an experiment. I mean, the sad part is that when we did it earlier as a test, it's not our first day on Blab, by the way. When we did a test earlier, we were not having these issues. So go figure.
Joel Carlson asks if we've tried peach yet. Joel, we talked about peach in the earlier segment of this before you joined. So yeah, we have. I haven't.
We think it's over.
Gail has.
I think it's over.
Yeah. So
what do you
let's
think,
wrap
Joel?
this up.
I think it's
finally.
Done.
Yeah,
I
we've
think
got the
it came
daily
and went
numbers.
in 4 days.
All right. So let's wrap this up with the daily numbers. I've got stats on how bloggers promote their posts. And this is, so here we go. So how do bloggers promote their posts, their own content? Social media marketing, 93.2% say they are sharing their content through social media marketing. Not surprising at all. So it's shared through several channels. Twitter, Facebook is typical channels that bloggers will use to share their posts. Search engine optimization is used by 56.6%. Email marketing, that is to say email newsletters, are used by 42.6% of bloggers. Influencer outreach, so they're reaching influencers and asking them to share their content, basically. 18.9% of bloggers are doing that. 8.7% of bloggers are using paid services like native advertising, PPC, and just advertising, basically. So if you want to find bloggers, I think the most efficient way of finding them is going through Twitter, because I think most bloggers are using Twitter because it's free, because it's public, and there's large enough audience out there to reach people. So there we go.
Speaking of email marketing, we have a newsletter that you must subscribe to, and when you subscribe to it, you get the big book of shiny new objects. That's only for our subscribers, and in it we have 51 of the best apps we've covered on the show recently, and we'll be updating it quarterly. So subscribe to our newsletter, and it will come to you with the next edition.
Absolutely, and we will have everything that we talked about in a blog post at BeyondSocialMediaShow.com/126. Not there yet, but it will be live soon, so that you can get all the links to all the stories that we talked about there. If you like this show, if you like the podcast, show us some love. Go to BeyondSocialMediaShow.com/love, and you can find places to leave us a review there. And I'm David Erickson. You can find me on Twitter, @DErickson. My blog is e-strategyblog.com. I also blog at our agency's blog, Kowalski & Courage's agency blog at creativepr.com/blog. BL, you want to tell them where everybody can find you?
Yes, I'm BL Achman. I blog at What's Next blog. I'm the CEO of what'snextonline.com. I am on YouTube as What's Next blog. Of course, we have a YouTube channel with all of the 125 episodes prior to this one. I write for Ad Age and Social Media Today, and I'm also the head of Maximum Plus for live streamed online events. And we'll be back next week, probably not on Blab, at 6 p.m. Eastern.